The extreme cold is starting to relax across parts of the country over the next couple of days, but I think there's more cold on the way and a pattern shift as far as our storms go heading into next week and maybe into February too. We're going to talk about really all of that in today's video. Hope you're doing well today. Here's that cold air. Again, a reinforcing shot of some of that as we head into Friday and Saturday around the Great Lakes. But the good news is we do start to warm up across the deep south, which, by the way, have you seen these images? Really impressive to see this snow. This is the visible imagery from yesterday, Wednesday. You can see all of that snow right here along the Gulf Coast. And also, not just here, but up into Georgia, parts of Alabama. And then we've even got the snow down here into coastal North and South Carolina and down to the coast here into Georgia. And I'm telling you, a historic storm for the Gulf Coast, right here into the Panhandle especially. Wild to see that snow there along the Gulf Coast beaches of Florida. That white sand in Destin, I saw some pictures. It almost just looked normal, but you had to look closer and go, wow, that's not those white sands. That's actually snow. So pretty impressive. There will be some snow melt, though, over the next couple of days. It is going to take time, however. Hey, if you're brand new to the channel, thanks for coming by. I'm Travis. I used to be a meteorologist on television many years ago. So if I'm hitting your algorithm, I hope that means you like this content. If you do, come back and subscribe. I'd love to have you be part of the community here. Let's take a look at the European model. We'll start here and just really walk through the next several days. Some lake effect snow here into the Great Lakes with some cold air moving through, some snow shower activity. That will start to wrap up large scale wise as we head into tonight, into Friday. However, there will be some downwind lake effect snow. Speaking of the Great Lakes, this is a really interesting thing to consider. We're starting to see much more coverage of ice, especially across Lake Erie. Just over the last couple of days, an explosive amount of ice with this cold air that's moved in. So now we've got right here, that's the only unfrozen part of Lake Erie. It's starting to also expand some up across Lake Huron, also Lake Ontario, but not nearly as much ice. It's one of the reasons you'll keep the snow going downwind here. But also, if you look to the north, pretty much unfrozen here across Superior and Lake Michigan. So the lake effect will continue to be a thing here, at least on 4 of the 5 lakes. Let's continue out in time. High pressure builds into the east, and we will start to see those temperatures warm up here across the south. Speaking of those temperatures, let's look at this really quickly because this is going to be the key here. It's going to be warmer as we head into this afternoon and this evening north of the Panhandle of Florida. Pretty wild. I mean, it's going to still be near or below zero up here across the high plains, up into the upper Midwest. And as we move into Friday morning, another chilly one, another blast of cold air moving into Indiana and Ohio will likely be below zero again. There comes some of that warmer air into Texas, also across the Central Plains with 40s and 50s. Still cold here across the Gulf Coast. It'll take until the weekend until we see some significant warming here. We're back into the 60s for Houston, down to San Antonio, even Corpus Christi. Still in the chill here, but at least you're cracking into the 50s now for Pensacola over to Mobile and Gulfport. North of that, warmer air surging north, so we're back up into the 30s and 40s for highs across Illinois and Indiana. North of that, a little bit colder, and another reinforcing shot of some cold air moving through the Great Lakes, but it's not as cold, right? Highs getting into the teens instead of saying near or below zero, especially for Minnesota and North Dakota. Let's move back to the precipitation map. High pressure, again, continuing to dominate across the east. That shifts to the east, and it's one of the reasons we start to warm up here across the Central Plains and into the east too. Colder, though, around the Great Lakes. There's that rain and snow shower activity, and then some rain here along the Gulf Coast that will be all liquid. Okay, we're not going to get the snow out of this here into the deep south. So more melting on the way as we head into the weekend, and it may come with a little bit of rain too. Another system moves here through Ontario, also into the northeast. That's going to bring some snow here, and interestingly enough, maybe some precipitation into Southern California with some rain and some snow. That might move inland too and cause some issues with some rain and snow. Not issues, but really just change your sensible weather here. It's been a while since we've seen precipitation here into the southwest. So good news here, especially with that fire danger that we've seen lately. Now, here's where things get kind of interesting. We're looking out into next week. We've just got these clipper systems. I think this is going to happen next week. They're just going to move out of the northwest. Your jet stream really flowing in like this. So with that happening, these embedded systems will just bring more light snow events here into this region. So southern Canada into the northern U.S., more light snow activity. Warm enough for just rain here as we head into next week. So we're looking at 1 week from today. This is where things get weird. You've got this upper low that's going to bring that precipitation into the far southwest. Where does it go exactly? I think that is a problem here with the models. We are looking out a week, so I'm not going to believe any of this. As we head into the weekend of next week, this upper low, and the reason I say I'm not going to believe it is because the models have a really hard time with these cutoff lows. If your jet stream is up here, this thing is just meandering. You can imagine just a lobe of fluid just sort of just moving around slowly if it's not being driven by a river. Because of that, small things can really just drive where these go. So you go from this last night on the European, bringing that upper low and then just forming a snowstorm here into the northeast. If you were to go back to yesterday's run at the same time, the storm track was much further to the west with this. So a lot of time before we get there. The point is that I'm trying to make, this is a different looking pattern to me as we head into February. So maybe, just maybe, that gives you a chance for snow in places where you've not seen much. And I do think that is going to be the case. Just for kicks, let's go over to the GFS because it does tell usually a slightly different story, sometimes a little more amplified. We're pretty close to the same narrative as we head through Monday and Tuesday. There's those northwest systems that just keep, or I should say northwest flow systems that just keep the snow showers coming into this region. Back here's your cutoff low into the southwest. And then as we head into Thursday and Friday, it really wants to put a lot of heavy rain here into Florida. And then, did you see that? What the heck is this? Okay, so yeah, we're looking out a week now, so who knows with these cutoff lows. But again, looking pretty active as we move into the east. Last night's run of the GFS, kind of similar with that weird cutoff low. And these can do some surprising things with your snow and ice and precipitation. So let's watch that. Beyond that, again, I think our storm track does start to shift up some as you look long range, and here's why. A bit of a different look here. Now you've got your flow moving into the Pacific Northwest, more so than just ridging out here and then troughing in the east. Now more of a zonal flow here for the south and the central plains, and I think this puts your storm track somewhere into this part of the country as we head into the first couple of weeks of February. Probably near or above normal temperatures here into the southeast. I say probably. I don't know. I mean, you're still going to get your cool downs. This is a very flat outlook that really just spreads things out over several days, but you get the idea that it's a little colder here in the west. Not what we've seen in January. So maybe closer to normal in February. And maybe that puts you some snow if you're looking for it here into parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota, back into Iowa, maybe even parts of Illinois and Indiana and Michigan, with a bit of a different setup. No promises on that, but you're definitely seeing a change, and this to me looks significantly different than what we've seen so far in January. Zooming in a little bit closer here into the east, again, we've got some snow showers moving through the Great Lakes and the Northeast, but otherwise, high pressure building in over the next couple of days, keeping us relatively dry, and there's that next round of light snow and lake effect starting to kick in by the weekend, and as promised, a little bit warmer across the south as we head into Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And there comes the rain showers. It looks like those will spread east, even into South Carolina as we head into the first part of the week, with more snow here into the northern parts of New York. So I think we get snow into Rochester. I think we get it up into Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. You're going to get some snow out of this too. And you could see multiple rounds of it. How much of it makes it to the coast? Time will tell, but either way, the cold is going to stick around here. The rest of the central and southeast is probably going to warm up, but I don't know. The northeast is going to have a tough time getting much warmer next week. Winter is on here, and there again, there's that fantasy storm, if you will, as we head into the following week. Across the west, a bit of a different story here. Dry, mostly. Some light snow moving down here into the Rockies. We talked some about that. And then there's your cutoff low moving into California as we get into the weekend. Possibly putting some snow into the Sierra, maybe even the southern mountains of California with some rain showers here too. I don't know how heavy it's going to be at this point in time, but you've got these burn scar areas where the runoff will be just really quickly, so you may be running into a situation where you need the precip. Now it's too much, too fast, too soon. But I would say overall a good sign for at least some precipitation broadly in this area. And it's been a while since we've seen snow into parts of northern Arizona, into New Mexico, mostly northern Arizona, especially here, very dry, but we've got a little bit of precipitation moving in as we head into the weekend, and next week it wants to meander this low pretty slowly off to the east. And again, as I said, those fluid dynamics of the atmosphere, these models have a hard time sometimes resolving or coming up with a solution for what's going to happen, so let's wait and see. All right, that's all I got for now. Have a great day. See you next time.